सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सुखं नित्यं स्वप्रकाशं व्यापकं नामरूपयोः अधिष्ठानं बुद्ध्यबोध्यं बुद्धेर्दृग्यत्तु निर्मलम् अपारं सर्ववेदान्तवेद्यं प्रत्यक्परं महः तदेवाहं न मत्तोऽन्यदिति मे निश्चिता मतिः। Page 97, topic 178, Kūtastha Varnanam, second paragraph, first line. बुद्धेहि व्यष्ट्य अज्ञानस्य वा अधिष्ठानभूतचेतनस्य कूटस्थः इति अभिधा यन्मते बुद्धिविशिष्टचेतनो जीवः तन्मते बुद्ध्यधिष्ठानचेतनः कूटस्थः इत्युच्यते। यत्र तु मते व्यष्टि अज्ञान विशिष्टचेतनः जीवः इति कीर्त्यते तन्मते व्यष्टि अज्ञानाधिष्ठानचेतनः कूटस्थ इति वर्ण्यते। अत्रायं सिद्धान्तः जीवत्वापादकं विशेषणं यत् तदधिष्ठानस्य कूटस्थ इति नाम। The author Nischal talking about the Chaturvidya Prakriya. Prakriya means a method in which four types of chaitanyams are taken as the subject matter. Before explaining four types of chaitanyam, the consciousnesses, as it were, they are four. The author has given that example, space at a micro level, original space and reflected space, as Ghatakasha and Jalakasha. Same way, at macro level also, Mahakasha and Meghakasha. So four types of spaces we saw in our previous classes. Ghatakasha, Ghatakasha, Jalakasha and Mahakasha and Meghakasha. Afterwards, the Ashtanta, the original about Chaitanyam he is talking about. The first one is Kūtastha Varnanam. Who is Kūtastha? I gave two derivations in the last class. I am not going to repeat that. Anyhow, the author also going to talk about in the next page that Kūtastha definitions are going to come. Now in this paragraph, Jiva, who is known as Jiva, that Jiva is having five components. Shastra or ācaryas are using the Jiva word. Depends upon the context. There are five components Sthula Shariram, Sukshma Shariram, Karana Shariram, or physical body, subtle body and causal body. 3 bodies plus reflected consciousness, Chidabhasa, RC, and original consciousness, OC. All these 5 put together we call as Jiva, the individual. This Jiva, the individual who is having 5 factors or 5 constituents. Sometimes ācaryas take only Sukshma Shariram and RC and OC, or sometimes they take Karana Shariram, RC and OC. So there is no any consistency in using all the 5 factors. Even though they are not using any 1 or 2 factors, we have to understand all these 5 factors together only called Jivaha. But when the context of traveling of the Jiva comes, their subtle body is taken and the travel is not of original consciousness. Therefore, there we have to drop original consciousness, because original consciousness is all pervading. It cannot travel. Only reflected consciousness, subtle body, that Karana Shariram can travel. So at that time we take that Jahati Lakshana. Drop that original consciousness. When the context of Jiva travel comes, you take only subtle body plus RC. Only you have to take. Of course, Karana Shariram also. So this is called Jahati Lakshana. But when we talk about the birth of Jiva, the context is birth of Jiva. Jiva is born. At that time, we have to take Ajahati Lakshana. Ajahati Lakshana, we should not drop, but we have to add. There is no deletion, but there is an addition. When we say Jiva is born, we have to include, add Sthula Shariram also. So then the topic of birth comes, Jiva's birth. Ajahati Lakshana we take, where you have to add. When the topic of Sukshma Shariram travel comes, the Jiva travels, there Jahati Lakshana we take. We have to delete the Sthula Shariram already dropped here. Of course, OC also is Achalam. You have to take only Jahati Lakshana there. So like that, Lakshyartha time also Bhagatyaga Lakshana we take. So Jahati Lakshana, Ajahati Lakshana, Jahad Ajahal Lakshana, these are all we saw in our previous Upanishads. So very important Lakshana we are using there. Therefore here Acharya talking about Kutasthaha from 2 standpoints. Number 1 is Buddhi Veshti Ajnanasya. Buddhi Veshti Ajnanam. Ajnana means Karana Shariram. Ya, Va means either 1 or 2. Either Sukshma Shariram standpoint you can talk about Kutasthaha, or Karana Shariram standpoint also you can talk. Adhisthana Bhuta Chaitanyasya Kutasthaha iti Abhida. Abhida means a name. What is that name? Kutasthaha. Kutastha means Chaitanyasya. Chaitanyasya means that Chaitanyam, that consciousness. At Veshti level we are talking now. Kutasthaha iti Abhida. He is explaining further. And Buddhi and Ajnana, Karana Shariram. First he takes that Sukshma Shariram. Yanmate Buddhi Vishishta Chetanaha Jivaha. Yanmate means in which context, from which standpoint you take Buddhi Visishta, that Chaitanyam which is enclosed in the Sukshma Shariram, subtle body. Here Buddhi means subtle body, I said. Tanmate, in that context, according to that view, Buddhi Adhisthana Chetanaha, that enclosed, Adhisthana means here enclosed, that enclosed consciousness is called Kutasthaha. That which is the reflecting medium for Jiva is the substratum for Kutastha, the substratum, that is the enclosure for the Chaitanya Adhisthana. That means what? When the reflecting medium is Sukshma Shariram for Jiva, the enclosure for Chaitanyam is Sukshma Shariram. So Sukshma Shariram Adhishthanam is Kutasthaha. When you take Sukshma Shariram, Adhishthanam Chetanaha, that enclosed Chaitanyam is called Kutasthaha iti. But whereas Yatra tu, when you take in which context, Mate, Veshti Ajnanam, the individual, Ajnana means here ignorance, literal meaning, but here Ajnana means Karana Shariram. Avidya, Anirvachya, that we say, Ajnanam, Vishishta Chaitanaha means enclosed Chaitanyam. That Chaitanyam which is enclosed in that Karana Shariram, Ajnanam, that Jivaha iti kirtyate tanmate. So the Jiva is Karana Shariram, that enclosed consciousness, reflected consciousness in causal body. Once you say, at that time the Chaitanyam, original conscious name, is also Tanmate Veshti Ajnana Adhishtana Chetanaha Kutastha. So Chaitanyam is enclosed in the causal body. Veshti Ajnana Adhishtanam, the substratum, that consciousness is the substratum of that causal body, is also called Kutasthaha. Iti Varnyate, is described. Atra Ayam, as a generalization, that Siddhanta is the final answer of Siddhanti is this. Siddhanta means answer, conclusion. Jivatvapadakam Visheshanam Yat. Once the Visheshanam, the Chaitanyam, reflects either in the Sukshma Shariram or in the Karana Shariram, either way, Jivatvapadakam, the Jiva name comes when Chidabhasa is formed. Jivatvapadakam Visheshanam. Visheshanam means that enclosed consciousness. Tad adhishtanasya kutastha iti nama. Adhishtana means here enclosed consciousness, reflecting medium, reflecting that enclosure for Chaitanya. Whatever is the reflecting medium for Jiva is the enclosure for consciousness. Whatever is the reflecting medium for Jiva, that is the enclosure for consciousness. That consciousness, enclosed consciousness, is called Kutastha. Either that enclosure may be Sukshma Shariram or Karana Shariram. Any one you take, suppose, that is Kutastha only. Up to here we saw in the last class. Next line. That's Ayam Kutastha Utpatyadirahitaha Asya Ayam Abhiprayaha Brahmano Vyatiriktaya Chidabhasaha Yatha Utpadyate Na Tadha Kutastha Utpadyate Kintu Brahmarupa eva saha bhavati Yatha Ghatakasho Mahakashat Na Vyatiriktaha Kintu Mahakasharupa eva bhavati Tadvat Ayam cha Kutasthaha Atmapada Lakshyarthaha Kutasthasya Pratyagiti Nijaswarupamiti जीवसाक्षीति च व्यपदेशः कूटस्थो घटाकाशात् स्थानीयः. Very important, nice portion. Sanskrit also is very simple here, beautiful Sanskrit and very lucid Sanskrit. Ayam kutasthaha. This kutastha is utpatyadi rahitaha. It is not having birth, adipadat, death. It doesn't have arrival and departure. Kutastha is the name for Chaitanyam, enclosed Chaitanyam. So that Kutastha, the one who is in that Kute Tishtati Kutastha Visa, that Chaitanyam which is enclosed, it is not really born, it is not really gone. There is no Ayaram, Gayaram business. Utpatyadi, Utpatti means birth, Adipadat, death, both are not there. Asya ayam abhipraya. That abhipraya, that is the view, opinion. Ayam abhipraya. This is the view here explaining, he is explaining further. How can you say so? Kutastha is birthless, deathless, because Brahmanaha vyatiriktaya chidabhasaha yatha utpadyate. Brahmanaha means here original consciousness. This original consciousness, Chaitanyam, Vitiriktataya, other than this Brahma Chaitanyam, Chidabhasaha yatha utpadyate. Chidabhasa alone is born, reflection alone is born, is generated, utpadyate. Na tadha kutastaha utpadyate, that like that Chidabhasa is born. When the medium is available, Chidabhasa is born. And the medium goes, Chidabhasa will go away. Like that, Kutastha na tadha Kutastha utpadyate. Kutastha will not born like that, like Chidabhasa, reflected consciousness. Then what? Kintu, but Brahma Rupa eva saha bhavati. That Kutastha is really speaking none other than Brahman alone. At individual level, that Brahman alone is called Kutastha here. Another name for Brahman. Brahma Rupa eva saha bhavati. Saha means Kutastha. Saha Kutastha Brahma Rupa eva bhavati. Brahman only. Yatha, just as Ghatakashaha, that pot space, Mahakashat, from total space, na vyatiriktaha, not different. The pot space is not different from the total space. Total space alone, because it is enclosed in this pot, it gets the name pot space. But it is not different. Pot space is not different from total space, like that. Tadvat. Kintu Mahakasha Rupaha eva bhavati. That pot space is nothing but total space only. Total space only, but the name only Vacharambhanam. That is only lip movement. We give the name to that Mahakasha temporarily as Ghatakasha because of Ghata, because of pot. Therefore, Mahakasha Rupaha eva bhavati. Kaha, that Ghatakasha. Tadvat, like that. Ayam cha Kutastha. Similarly, this Kutastha Chaitanyam also Atmapada Lakshyartha. So Atma's Lakshyartha means secondary meaning, implied meaning. What is that? Atma, I am Atma is the Kutastha Atmapada. Atmapada means the all-pervading Brahman. When it is enclosed in the medium, either subtle body or causal body, whatever you call, all the three bodies, suppose you say, that Brahma Chaitanyam alone is known as Atma here in this body-mind complex. apnoti sarvam iti atma. So that atma is self, is nothing but kutasthaha atma padasya lakshartha. Atma pada, the word atma, the self, it is the secondary implied meaning, real meaning of kutastha. Kutastha is the name for atma, real name for atma. Lakshartha means real name, original name for kutastha. Kutasthasya, what are other names for kutastha? Kutasthasya eva pratyag, inner self, pratyagatma, inner self, pratyagiti, nijaswarupamiti, that is the real swarupam, real nature. Jiva sakshiti, another name. Jiva as witness, witness consciousness. So jiva sakshiti cha vyapadeshaha, these are all names the kutastha can be called. Pratyak, nijaswarupaha, jiva sakshi is the kutastha. So kutasthaha ghatakashasthaniyaha. So example side you have to take 4. Ghatakashaha, jalakashaha, 2 at micro level. So that ghatakasha compared here, taken example taken for what? Kutastha. That means kutastha is compared to ghatakashaha. Ghatakasha sthaniyaha means compared to. Kutastha must be compared to the pot space. So the example 1 over. Now Ghatakasha Kutastha Sthaniyaha. Now the next is Jiva Rupa Varnanam. We will see next actually that who is Jiva? What is the nature of Jiva? Normally we hear the Jiva word often in the Shastra. However much you listen about Jiva, we will have always doubt, who is this Jiva? Who is this Jiva? Because Jiva, even though 2 letters Jiva, only 2 letters are there, but you know how to understand this Jiva's nature with 5 constituents. Each constituent we have to know very clearly. What is Sthula Shriram also we have to study elaborately. What is Sukshma Shriram also you have to study elaborately. And what is Karana Shriram also you have to study elaborately. And what is original consciousness also you have to study elaborately. Each constituent you have to study, component you have to study elaborately. Threadbare analysis. After doing threadbare analysis, you know the positions of each component. What is its position? Then you understand who is real Jiva. So that is very, very interesting. Jiva Swarupam, Ishvara Swarupam, Jagat Swarupam. These are the 3 subject matters always in Vedanta. The nature of individual, the nature of Ishvara, and the nature of universe. So now we'll enter into the next topic from 179 to 183. Jivaswarupa Varnanam Buddhi Pratibimbita Chaitanyam Jivaha. Now 2 headings he gives here. Jivaswarupa Varnanam. Varnanam, description about the nature of Jiva. Jivaswarupa means the nature of individual, the nature of Jiva. Who is that Jiva individual? I myself. I am the individual. I the Jiva. Who am I? What is the description about my nature? That all going to come here. Now from 179 to 182, the description about Buddhi Pratibimbita Chaitanyam Jivaha. This prakriya is the second prakriya author he is going to talk about. What is that Jivaha? I said 5 components. That one component, one prakriya he takes here. Because ācaryas use any prakriya, their facility, any prakriya they can take based on the context. Therefore, Here, Buddhi Pratibimbita Chaitanya means Sukshma Sharira Pratibimbita, reflected Chaitanyam, consciousness is called Jivaha. This is one type of Prakriya taken here. Any Prakriya, what you take, why they are not consistent? Suppose we get a doubt. Why they are not consistent regarding Jiva? Why they take either this or that and all? Because anyhow, all these among 5 factors, 4 are going to be negated. 4 are going to be falsified. 3 sharirams and reflected consciousness, all are mithya, anatma. Therefore, what is the necessity of consistency when they are going to be negated? Therefore, they can use any prakriya, whatever is convenient for the topic or context. Now we'll read that Jiva Swarupam, 179 topic. Jiva Swarupam Ananta Koti Kama Karma Vasana Vasita Buddhau Pratik Phalita Chaitanyam Pratibimbaha Jivaha iti Vidvadbhihi Uchyate Nahi tat pratibimbamatram jiva ityuchyate kintu yatha ghatakasha sahita akasha pratibimbaha jalakasha iti kathyate evam kutastha sahita chidabhaso jivaha iti kirtyate tasmat buddhistha chidabhasaha बुद्ध्यधिष्ठान चैतन्यं च इति उभयं मिलित्वा जीवः इति सिद्ध्यति. Jivaswarupam, the nature of Jiva. Jiva consisting of what and what? Ananta Koti, here Jiva means we have to take especially Manushya Jiva, because other Jivas, they don't have any fresh karmas, fresh kamas like human beings. Therefore, we can take, because only human beings study about Vicharasagara, not other jivas. Therefore, let us take here Manushya Jivaha. Ananta Koti Kama Karma Vasana Vasita Buddhau. Jiva is one who is vasita, means ingrained, registered with what? Vasana. Vasana means tendencies. Janma vasanas, karma vasana, that previous actions done in previous janma. Why karma was done by Jiva? Because of kama. Kama is desire. Because of desire, want to fulfill certain things, Jiva performs certain karmas. Once we do kama related karmas, then that they register in the mind in the form of vasanas. That vasana, kama, karma, vasana, vasita, buddhau means in that mind, antahkaranam, registered. So the buddhau pratiphalita, reflected in that buddhau, in that sukshma shariram, when the chaitanyam reflected, pratiphalita means reflected, chaitanyam pratibimbaha, the reflection of consciousness, that chaitanyam, that reflection of that chaitanyam is called jivaha. So the reflected consciousness is called Jivaha, where this reflection is formed in the Buddhi. What do you mean by Buddhi? Sukshma Shariram. Sukshma Shariram means subtle body, or Antahkaranam you can take. There, in that Antahkaranam, when the Chaitanyam is reflected, that Chaitanyam is called Chidabhasaha, that Chidabhasa is called Jivaha. Iti, who says Vidvadbhihi, wise people say that, Uchyate, Vidvadbhihi, by the wise people, the call this is Jivaha. The reflected consciousness in the mind is called Jivaha. So RC is equal to Jivaha. Okay, in this context. Na hi tat pratibimba matram Jivaha ityuchyate. That reflected consciousness alone is not Jiva. Okay, reflected consciousness to form, who is required? OC is required, original consciousness is required, and reflecting medium is required. Without RM, reflecting medium, without OC, original consciousness, how the pratibimba can be formed? Therefore he says, pratibimbaha hi na jivaha. That pratibimba alone is not jiva. Then kintu, but yatha ghatakasha sahita akasha pratibimbaha jalakashaha iti kathyate. So that jalakasha pratibimba, how is it formed in the example? Jala is in the pot space. So that pot space has got water, and the water has got the reflection of the space. Therefore jalakashaha. That's what he says. Example, he reminds us, if you are not able to understand this reflected consciousness alone cannot be called as jivaha, just like ghatakasha and jalakasha. There he reminds that example. Ghatakasha sahita. So when you talk about jalakasha, when you are talking, what you have to understand? Ghatakasha also is there, you have to understand. Ghatakasha, how can it form without ghata? So ghata is also there. In that ghata, akasha is also there. In that ghatakasha, jalam is there. In that jalam alone, that akasha is reflecting, jalakasha. So that jalakashavat here iti kathyate evam, in this manner. Kutastha sahita chidabhasaha jivaha iti kirtyate. Therefore jiva is kutastha sahitaha. There jalakashaha ghatakasha sahitaha. Tadvat here also jivaha, when we call that chidabhasaha kutastha sahitaha. Without original consciousness, kutastha, how this chidabhasa can be formed? So chidabhasa, jiva, once you want to say, kutastha sahitaha eva, understood. Because just as you see your reflected face only is there. To form a reflected face, two other things are required. To form your reflected face, what are all other two things? Your original face is required, mirror is required. Without mirror, without original face, reflected face can be formed there? Possible? Not possible. Like that. So he gave that ghatakasha example. I am giving the mirror original face example. That's all. So that it will be more clear for you now. So kutastha sahita chidabhasaha. Original consciousness must be there to form chidabhasa, the reflected consciousness. Jiva iti kirtyate. Kirtyate means called, named as kutastha, jivaha. That alone jivaha. Jiva means who now? Kutastha sahita chidabhasaha. So kevala chidabhasa doesn't exist. Okay? Kevala kutastha also cannot be called as jivaha. Therefore, tasmat brahm buddhisthaniya, buddhistha chidabhasaha. That chidabhasa which is in that reflected consciousness, which is in the mind, buddhi, subtle body. Buddhi adhisthana chaitanyam, that chaitanyam which is the original consciousness in buddhi, the substratum of buddhi is original consciousness. Therefore buddhi is the medium, RM. Adhisthana chaitanyam is the OC. that Chaitanyancha Ubhayam Militva Jivaiti. Ubhayam Militva, both combining the both of them. Both of them means what? RC plus OC. Combining both of them alone is called Jivaha. Siddhyati. Finally, we arrive at that Jiva means don't take only reflected consciousness. Jiva means once you say reflected consciousness, also understood. What is understood? Original consciousness. Why? There is no reflected consciousness without original consciousness. Therefore, even though we have not mentioned, once we say Jivaha, Chidabhasa is called Jivaha. Oh, without original consciousness? No, with original consciousness understood. That is very important. These are all between lines. Between lines, subtle intellect only will grasp all these points. Okay. Now the next topic, next page 98. 180 topic. Abhasa Swarupa Vivechanam Prak Bimbarupa Kutastha Sahita Chidabhaso Jiva iti Prapanchitam Ataha idam pratiyate buddhau pratifalito yaha pratibimbaha saha kutasthasya natu bahya brahma chaitanyasya yasya pratibimbo anyatra pratiyate sayaiva bimba ityuchyate prakrite kutasthasya bimbatva angikarat जीवः तत् प्रतिबिम्बः इत्येव प्रतीयते तथा हि अत्यन्त रक्त जपा कुसुमाद्युपाधि उपरिस्थ स्वच्छस्फटिके तत्पुष्पादिरक्तिमा प्रतीयते स च स्फटिकादिगतरक्तिमा तत्पुष्पादि प्रतिबिंब एव तथा कूटस्थाश्रितबुद्धौ कूटस्थस्य प्रकाशः प्रतिफलति सः प्रकाशः एव चिदाभास इत्युच्यते अत्यन्त स्वच्छ स्फटिकत्वं स्फटिकवत् बुद्धिरपि अत्यन्त निर्मला सत्वगुण कार्यत्वात् तस्याः तत्र प्रतिफलित कूटस्थ प्रकाशस्यैव प्रतिबिम्ब इति समाख्य बुद्धेः कूटस्थाधिष्ठानत्वात् बुद्धौ कूटस्थस्यैव प्रतिबिम्बः उचित इति जीवः कूटस्थ प्रतिबिम्ब इति पक्षः प्रदर्शितः. This is a beautiful expression about Abhasa Swarupa. What do you mean by Abhasa? Chidabhasa, we use the word. Chit Abhasa. That is, the Abhasa means resemblance, replica. That of whom? Abhasa means is a replica or resemblance of whom? First, in the previous line, he said prapanchitam. What is said in that previous line, previous paragraph, topic? That already said. Prak. Prak means in the previous topic. Abhasa Swarupa Vivechanam. Vivechana means distinctly studying about the Swarupam, the nature of what? Abhasa. Abhasa means reflection. Study of, see, reflected face in the mirror. Now you say, let us study about the reflected face. What is there, Swamini, to study about the reflected face? Anyhow, it is mithya only. It is unreal only. My original face alone is real. Why to study about the reflected face? My dear, however much beautiful you are, you can never see your face. Okay? You can never see your own face. You have to see your face only through reflection of your own face. You can put a bindi, you can decorate your face, and you can makeup, lot of things you can do on your face only through the reflection. Properly you can do. Without mirror also you can do, but it is not you cannot see that face. So with mirror, if you makeup do and all, very nice it is. Like that here, reflection is also very important. Abhasa means a reflection. What is that description? Prak, before, Bimbarupa Kutastha Sahita. I said Jiva means what? Jiva iti prapanchitam. I said who is Jiva? And what I said in the previous topic, Jiva is not only reflected consciousness. Jiva means OC plus RC, together, alone, put together, militva, I said. So, Bimba Rupa Kutasthaha, OC, Sahita, along with that, Chidabhasaha, RC, Jivaha iti prapanchitam. I said, both combining only Jivaha, Ataha, therefore, idam pratiyate. Now it is explained further, what you can call finer and finer description. He is going to take subtle, more and more refined description. Buddho pratipalitaha yaha pratibimba. Who is Kutastha? The reflection is what? Original is what? Beautiful, he presents here. Yes, Buddho pratifalitaha. In the mind, Sukshma Shariram, whatever is reflected, yaha, pratibimbaha, the reflection, saha kutasthasya eva, that is belong to Kutastha only, that is Kutastha only, natu bahya brahma chaitanyasya. That reflection is not belong to bahya external brahma chaitanyam. It is the enclosed consciousness reflection alone. Here in this paragraph you take two options. One is Kutastha chaitanyam reflected in the mind, or bahya brahma, external Brahman is reflected in the mind, is the question. The question is here, he presents two options. Both are correct only. You can say it is Kutastha Pratibimbam in the mind, or you can say Bahya Brahma Pratibimbam also you can say. Both are correct only, but first half he takes that Kutastha Pratibimba. Kutasthasya eva natu Bahya Brahma Chaitanyasya. Now what is Pratibimba? What is Bimba? He says, Yasya Pratibimbaha Anyatra Pratiyate. Sayeva Bimba Ityuchyate. What do you mean by Bimba? Bimba Chaitanyam, Bimba Mukham. We talk about original space, original consciousness. What do you mean by original? Original is that Bimba iti uchyate. Original is that Yasya, whose Pratibimbaha, Abhasaha means Pratibimbaha, Abhasa or Pratibimba, both are synonyms. Pratibimbaha, reflection, Anyatra Pratiyate, elsewhere, whose reflection is formed elsewhere. Whose reflection is formed elsewhere is called original. Bimbaha. What a description. Whose reflection is formed elsewhere is called Bimbaha. My Mukham is Bimba Mukham. Why you call Bimba Mukham? Mukham you can say. Why you call Bimba Mukham? There is another reflected face in front of me in the mirror. So Pratibimba Mukham is there. Therefore I call this Mukham as Bimba Mukham. That is why whose face is reflected elsewhere, elsewhere in the means mirror, whose original face, Bimba Mukham, is reflected in the elsewhere in the mirror, that face is Bimba Mukham. So Bimba word is used when there is a Pratibimba. Okay, like that here also Bimba Chaitanyam is that when its reflection is formed in the Buddhi, elsewhere in Buddhi or Karana Shariram. Therefore it is called Bimba. Two examples, many examples you can take like that. So iti Saeva Bimbaha iti uchyate. You have got this line clearly. Yasya pratibimbaha anyatra pratiyate. Elsewhere it appears, whose reflection appears elsewhere. Sahaeva, that alone is Bimba iti uchyate. Original it is called. Prakriti kutasthasya bimbatva angikarat. Prakriti in individual level, micro level, prakriti means now the present context. Kutasthasya, kutastha is accepted as angikarat, accepted as bimbatva. Bimbatva angikarat, status of bimba, original consciousness. Jivaha tat pratibimbaha iti eva pratiyate. Therefore jiva is none other than Kutastha Pratibimbaha alone. Tadhahi. To explain further, example he gives. What example? If you are not able to grasp this, let us see the example. Atyanta Rakta Japa Kusumadi. Atyanta, extreme red. Rakta means red. Japa Kusuma means hibiscus. In Telugu they call Mandara Pushpam. In English hibiscus. In Tamil they call Shambarattipu. Shambarattipu. That Japa Kusumam. Adipadat, any flower you can take, red flower. Now I can take this red flower. I brought two flowers here. Let me show this example. Atyanta Rakta Japa Kusumadi Upadhi. Upadhi means that flower, Upadhi, Uparistha Swachha Spatike Tat Pushpadi Raktima Pratiyate. That white crystal, Spatika means white crystal, Spatike, upon the Spatikam. Japa Kusuma, if it is close, Upadhi means Upa Samipam. Once you see this flower, red, white crystal I am showing you. Now first see the white crystal. Now Uparistha, that there is a red flower. This is called hibiscus. Okay, Japa Kusma. That red, thick, dark red. Raktima means redness. The redness of the flower is transferred to the crystal. Now the crystal is appearing as red or not? The crystal is also appearing as red. Okay, this is big flower. Okay, crystal is very small. Now the crystal is also appearing red. Okay, because of the proximity, closeness. So the really speaking here in this example, normally Chaitanyam we take as crystal. Now here in this example, mind is compared to crystal. Mind is Swachham, Buddhi. So in that, just as the redness of the flower is appearing in making the crystal as red, as though appearing as red, Sahacha Spatikādigata Raktima, that redness of that Spatikam, Tat Pushpadi Pratibimba, that is the reflection of the flower only. Tatha. So the example clear now. So once that flower is very close to that crystal, white crystal, the redness of that flower, Raktima, is this Pumlingam. Rakta means red, Raktima means redness. So Raktiman Shabdaha, Nakarantaha Pullingaha, Raktiman Shabdaha, Raktima, Raktimano, Raktimanaha. that Raktima, the redness of that flower, is tat pushpadi pratibimbaha eva. That is the reflection of the flower or not? The crystal reflects the redness of that red flower. Clear? Like that, tadha, similarly, tadha, kutastha ashrita buddhau. So that kutastha buddhi is kutastha ashritam, because Chaitanyam is all pervading. In that buddhi, here buddhi is like a crystal. Okay, buddhi is like a crystal. You take kutasthasya prakashaha. That kutastha is like a red flower. Okay, now here kutastha is like a red flower. So the prakashaha means the sentiency of that kutastha chaitanyam pratibiphalati. The buddhi, antakaranam becomes sentient. Just as the white crystal takes the redness of that flower as it were, really it is not taking, but it appears red only crystal. Red crystal it becomes. Like that, buddhi borrows the prakashaha, the sentiency of that kutastha. Kutastha is chaitanyam, atma chaitanyam. That kutastha chaitanyam sentiency, prakashaha, pratiphalati, reflects where? In the buddhi. Buddhi, buddhistasya prakashaha, kutasthasya prakashaha, the sentiency of that consciousness, that is kutasthaha, buddhau pratifalati. Saha prakashaha eva, that sentiency alone. Chidabhasa iti uchyate, that sentiency appearing in that buddhi is what? Chidabhasa, reflection of the chit, chaitanyam. So, Chidabhasa. Chidabhasa means nothing but the reflection of Chit is called Chidabhasa. Iti uchyate atyanta swachha spathikavat buddhihi api atyanta nirmala. So, buddhi is also like a spatikam. Mind is made out of satvaguna karyatvat tasyaha buddhehe satvaguna karyam. It is made out of satvaguna. Satvaguna is swachham. So satvaguna karyatvat, it is a product of satvaguna. Therefore it is swachham, like crystal, spatikavat. Therefore it is able to, now you see this flower cannot be reflected by this clip. Clip, see, it cannot transfer the color. Why? It is not swachham. Whereas a crystal is swachham, it is able to transfer the color. You can see that color. Like that here also, buddhi has got such a swachhatvam, therefore it can borrow the sentiency of the kutastha. Therefore it is called chidabhasaha. Atyanta swachha spatikavat buddhihi api atyanta nirmala satvaguna karyatvat tasyaha tatra pratifalita kutastha prakashasya eva. Tatra, there, the reflected consciousness, pratifalita kutastha prakashasya eva. Prakasha means sentiency. Pratibimbaha, it is Sāmakhya. It is well known. Sāmakhya means we know it by the name Pratibimbaha. It is the reflection of that Kutastha Chaitanyam alone, Bimba Chaitanyam. Buddhehe Kutasthaadhishtanatvat Buddhau Kutasthasya Pratibimbaha Uchita iti. Now we take it is Kutastha Pratibimba alone. Why here buddhehe kutastha adhishtana? Because the enclosure for kutastha is what? Buddhi. So the enclosure is the buddhi, that is Sukshma Shariram. One Sukshma Shariram is the enclosure for the kutastha chaitanyam. Then that reflection of that buddhi, antakaranam also must be whose? Who is in reflection? It must be what is uchitam, what is proper. Uchitam means here that is the school of Advaita. They talk about this pakshaha. This is one option. Pakshaha pradarshitaha. One option, one view of that school of Advaita is shown. Kūtastha pratibimba iti. It is Kūtastha pratibimba alone. It's not Brahma pratibimba. Can't you say it is Brahma pratibimba? Let us see later that Brahma pratibimba. Now let us say Kūtastha pratibimba alone. That is the one group of people take. Jiva is the reflection of Kūtastha. Jivaha Kūtastha pratibimbaha. Iti pakshaha pradarshitaha. In this paragraph, pratibimba lakshanam is given. It is Kūtastha pratibimbaha iti. Then what next? Next page, next paragraph. Athava. We can take second option also. Brahma pratibimba also we can take. How that he is going to explain now. I will read. Athava brahma chaitanyasya buddhau pratibimba iti pakshopi sambhavyata eva tatha hi ghatantastha jale bahya mahakasha pratibimba eva bhavati natu ghatantah ghatantastha घटान्तस्थस्य आकाशस्य प्रतिबिम्बः घटस्थजले यावान् विस्तारः उपलभ्यते तावान् विस्तारः घटान्तस्थाकाशस्य नास्ति घटस्थजले उपलभ्यमान विस्तारः आकाशस्य प्रतिबिम्बः एव तस्माद् बाह्यम् आकाशस्यैव घटस्थजले प्रतिबिम्बो वाच्यः एवं बुद्धौ व्यापक ब्रह्म चैतन्यस्यापि प्रतिबिम्बो भवितुमर्हति. This is second option. We can say Brahma Chaitanyam reflection alone is reflecting in the buddhi. Also we can say, he gives the example also for that. Athava. Athava means to take the second option. Brahma Chaitanyasya, that Chaitanyam, that of that Brahman. Brahma Chaitanya means you have to remember Taittiriya Upanishad. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Brahman Swarupa Lakshanam given as consciousness, Jnanam. Therefore Brahma Chaitanyam, the Brahman who is none other than consciousness. Buddhau pratibimbaha iti. That Brahman alone, all pervading Brahman alone is reflecting in buddhi. Iti pakshaha api. Pakshaha means prakriya. This prakriya also sambhavyata eva. This is also possible. The reflection is in the mind is that of consciousness, Brahman also. You can say that also. Tathahi. That is to explain, just like ghatantastha jale, that water which is in the pot. Ghatantastha jale. Bahyam akasham pratibimbaha eva bhavati. So in that example what we saw, Ghatakasha. In that Ghatakasha there is Jala. In that Jala there is Akasha reflection. Jalakasha. So Ghatantastha Jalakashe Bahyam Akasha Pratibimbaha. Who is reflecting? External space is reflecting in that water, or pot space is reflecting in the pot water. Am I not confusing you? Okay, it's not confusing. Simple, you see. Ghatakasha, Jalakasha. Now in that Jalakasha, Akasha reflecting in the Jala which is in the pot. Which pot that has also got space. So pot space is reflecting in the Jalam, or outer external space is reflecting in the Jalam. Ācaryas says external space only reflecting in the Jalam. So that is what he says. Natu ghatantasthasya akashaha pratibimbaha. That is not the reflection of the pot space, but it is the reflection of the external space. Ghatastha jale yavan vistaraha upalabhyate tavan vistaraha ghatantastha akashaha nasti. That jala of that pot water can reflect the vast space, but pot space cannot have that capacity to reflect that whole space. So further details we'll see in the next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.